So great. All right, let's start.
Hey, welcome to another
Ladies and gentlemen,
journey on my mind.
This is a big freaking day. All right, it's a big day.
It is.
Suzie Lind.
P. Lind. Yeah.
Suzie P. Lind. The P
Lind.
now stands for professionally over 50.
Oh my gosh.
It is her 50th birthday today on this very day.
That we're recording.
Yes, it is
Not when you're
happening.
not when
It
you're
is
listening
happening.
to this.
And
Yeah.
what do you get the woman who is to so many of us a blessing? What do you get the woman
so many of
who is
us.
a spiritual director? Most of us.
Yeah.
Not all.
Yeah.
But most.
Yeah.
What do you get a woman who is so spiritually gifted, who is so discerning and wise,
Preach.
unbelievably popular and well loved?
Preach.
What do you get? Well, I was thinking, Tim.
Oh boy.
And I was thinking about
Where is this going?
And I was
I
thinking
don't know.
about
None of this was
I'm
passed
like,
by
this
me.
is not going in a good direction.
There are supplements for people under 50.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And then there's the over 50 mix.
Yeah.
So I did
Oh,
a
he
little
did.
research.
No.
I did a little research, and I brought today. Let's see. This is Prevagen. It improves
Oh.
memory.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Hey, and if you don't want that one, I'll take that one.
Yep.
Is that just for women?
Yep.
I-
You know what? Great question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's regular strength. I need extra strength.
I'll
Yeah.
share it with you.
Yeah.
We can keep it here at the office.
So this is garlic
Oh.
for heart and circulatory function.
Oh,
I don't
nice.
want your feet to get super cold. This is quercetin.
Oh my gosh.
Traditionally
Quercetin.
used for heart.
Spell that, please.
Quercetin.
It's, quercetin. Do you already take it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I'll hold on.
Keep that one for yourself.
All right. Vitamin C. Vitamin C, and you need more as you get older with rose hips
That's a
because
good.
your hips
That's
are.
a good bottle of that.
Your hips don't lie.
Yeah.
Hips don't lie. I've got some acid reducer now because you probably need to leave about 3 hours between dinner and laying down
Okay.
flat. And the only reason I know this is Kevin is 63 and has been telling us.
Yeah, that's a Prevagen.
This is an empty,
What's your name?
This is an empty exactly. This is an empty bottle. But this I'm giving you to remind you to get fiber gummies.
Oh,
Okay, because
Actually,
Why
talked
is it
to,
empty?
those are good.
Well, because I was just rummaging through our
My garbage?
supplement drawer.
Oh, yeah.
And,
These are all from your supplement drawer? I'm impressed.
yeah. Well, I just thought, listen, as somebody who's
Justy's going to be pissed.
yeah, seriously,
Yeah.
fiber
She
gummies.
doesn't watch this. We're good.
Fiber gummies, and here's the reason. I talked to the guy who redid your bathroom, and he said there are issues. That's
yeah.
all I'm gonna
Yeah.
say.
Yeah,
All
the
right?
guy.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy, though.
He's a great.
Oh my gosh.
All right,
here we
This
go.
is
Good.
some calcium, magnesium, and zinc together. So you can have them individually, but when you put them together, they're more potent.
Okay. Great.
And
Thank you.
evidently, it's your electrolytes. Fish oil, Susie, because because you are somebody from the Mediterranean.
Wow.
And Nashville is well known for its fresh
yes.
fish. All right.
I think you brought the
fish
story.
oil.
Ultra CoQ10 because
Wow.
Yeah.
Fox News recommends it, and then
Cardiologist recommended.
Aleve just so you can
Oh,
get out of
yeah.
bed. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen,
Wow.
Suzie P. Lind,
What is that?
Welcome. We
the 50s.
welcome you with open arms. The problem is, I just got a loud environment warning.
Yeah,
Evidently, I'm
yeah.
really shouting right now. I'm just so
I was
excited.
thinking you were being really loud about this.
He's excited about it.
I am very excited
Here's
about
what
it.
I'm excited about is that you actually have all these supplements. And
Yeah.
you've been making fun of me for this amount of time, and these are all in your house.
Well, yeah, but they're years old. I mean, these are like, when
They're
the kids,
empty.
When the kids,
sorry.
that's how fresh we are. we have empty bottles. I was like, okay. And Tim,
Did you put them in baggies?
what?
Did you put all those in baggies so you could just give her the bottles?
No. This is so unused in our house that they were empty bottles, and I was like,
Oh.
what supplements can I use to make a joke about?
Yeah, wedding
And
presents?
so, yes,
yeah.
some of these were for our kids when they were little.
Totally.
Like,
Wow.
yeah. So,
Well, you got to move those things from house to house too. That's
so Susie,
I've done that. I've looked at stuff and said
Susie?
I've moved that 3 times. Why have I moved that 3 times? He
So
moves empty
Susie-
bottles.
listen, you don't look a day
you.
over 27, but doggone it, your soul.
Yeah.
Your
tired.
soul is tired.
Tired, you say.
Now,
I didn't know where you were going.
No,
with
this is
this.
the only. No, that's not the only thing because we thought Suzie Lind. What?
No, small
There's
child.
someone at the door. There's a child.
A
at the
small
door.
child.
Is there anything?
Oh no! I think it's Edwin's child.
Yeah.
Oh.
She also has something for you.
Oh yeah, Tim.
Yeah.
Tim has.
No,
something.
I mean, I just brought some frankincense.
Oh,
felt
wow.
awesome.
Oh, yes.
You're
Frankincense.
gonna
Yeah.
die sooner. And
Did you steal this from my house?
nope, this is from
Yep.
Essential oils.
Hillary.
For kids.
Oh, can I see the frankincense? I want to see
my
what they
word.
gave Jesus.
See,
So
And
here's just
all
a
I'm
question.
gonna do is take you out
Oh
for dinner.
my
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do you put it on like this? Do you put it on?
You can.
Oh, that's awful.
That's awful.
Susie, so
That is-
what do you do with jojoba oil? Well, Hillary's got
yes.
a bunch of that. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
we've never used it.
It's jojoba.
That's why I said jojoba. But
Jojo.
my friends call it jojoba.
Jojo, your friends do?
Yeah.
That's the Indian pronunciation.
Yeah, jalapeno.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
What do you do with jojoba?
It's called a carrier oil.
Yes.
So you carry. If I
Yes.
wanted frankincense, because
So it's kind of
So
like.
frankincense
Is
is
it
actually
transmitted through kissing?
no.
Okay.
Frankincense is actually really expensive.
Oh,
And so
that's
you
why they
don't-
gave it to
yeah,
baby Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't want to
Right.
use a lot of it, and you don't need to use a lot of it. So you put a carrier oil in your palm first, and then you put the
That'll preach, you know what I mean?
And then you
Bro,
know-
do you think they did that with the baby Jesus?
no, I
Do you
think they
it-
were all in with the baby Jesus.
I know, but do you think they gave him carrier oil
Yeah.
for the myrrh and the frankincense and the
No.
gold?
yeah, jojoba.
Okay. Jojoba.
Anyways, I just brought some
Jojoba.
cool things.
Yeah,
for
Tim,
you
what
just to
else
look
you have?
at. It's fine. I don't want to keep going, but I've got a additive. Additive.
Oh yeah.
So.
you don't
Thank
correct
you.
that pronunciation. Okay.
Oh, because it's correct, Mike.
Yep. Thank you.
And I've got some oregano, which is delicious.
Mike, I think you should try this. Put a drop of it under your tongue.
Yeah.
I'm not putting anything under
it's
my
really
tongue.
good.
To
It's
put it
really
between
good.
your cheek and gum.
Just seriously, just put a little bit under your tongue,
No, you don't.
bro. It's
No way. No
If,
freaking way.
like if you're flying, you put a drop of it under your tongue, and it'll protect you from getting sick.
Okay. And the science on that is conclusive.
Yeah. So here's some castor.
Okay. I have frankincense
oil.
in one
Great.
cheek, and I have
I
what was
really,
that?
I
Oregano.
really
in
feel
the
like
other?
I could be doing something else right
All
now.
to say, Susie, we just think you're terrific,
Yep.
and we're so happy
Yep.
that you're alive.
And we wanted to
Thank
speak your
you.
love language
Yes.
today, and we
Yeah.
thought
Oh, there it is.
oils
Uh-huh.
and supplements.
Yep.
What do you get the woman
That has
who
everything.
is everything and has everything?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
we
here
realized,
she comes.
and we
You're
have.
gonna get a hug, I
we
bet.
have.
Favorite.
Oh,
That's a card
Lyra,
just for
you're
you.
that's a
the
card.
cutest.
Oh my goodness!
Our-
Thank you. We have a.
Our
guest.
cards are in the mail.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
While there's now there's lap sitting, and this is great for a podcast
Yeah,
because
yeah,
typically you don't see
Yeah.
Right.
any of this, so this is great.
The
So it'll
play-by-play
push
is good,
people.
though.
Yeah.
Look at
The
this.
play-by-play.
So
Did
so
you
right
draw
now,
this, Lyra?
Hold on. How old are you, Lyra? She's 5. Let's just be clear that we have a 5-year-old in the
yeah,
room.
Yeah.
So
and then we
cute.
have somebody who's 10 times that age.
Wow.
And 12 times.
Thank
Oh,
Oh,
Swish.
Lyra, that is so
Very
cool,
sweet.
honey.
Thank you, Lyra.
Oh, did
That
you
means
write
so
that?
much to me.
Yeah,
Look, and
she made
Did you
it.
write that? And
Yeah.
and that is a dead ringer for Suzie Lind.
No, I think this is Lyra. Is that you? Yeah.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Lyra.
Okay. It missed the glasses. Okay, I understand. Sorry, Lyra. That was perfect. Well done.
you.
Well done.
Love you.
Lyra, do you want to smell frankincense?
And myrrh.
How come-
Thank you.
My birthday was last week.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody was.
Oh, she feels bad.
Oh no. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Bye, honey. You did a great
You did
job.
great.
Wow.
Don't worry about
Bye,
Mike.
Lyra. Thank you.
I
I'm
gave
okay.
Mike a hug last week for his birthday.
Yeah.
My card's in the mail.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I wrote a card too.
Sorry.
jojoba.
Yes.
Continue.
All right. So,
Oh,
where was I going to go? I had a place.
Oh.
Suzie Lind 50. Oh, let's do a 50-word sentence where we each do one word
Yeah.
of affirmation. Okay, so I will go. I'll start. So we just each do one. So like Suzie, you are. And then
She
we
not.
go.
She doesn't.
She doesn't get to. This is a
Okay.
50-word
Okay.
sentence in honor
Lord
of
have mercy.
every year
Lord have mercy.
of
Lord
Susie's
have
life. Ready?
mercy.
Okay, Suzie,
Lind.
Hey,
you
Are
such
a
crazy.
wonderful.
person, comma,
Mama. Comma.
Friend
who
Happens.
to
love.
Putting up with. Oh, that's too many words.
Wow.
Pudding.
Just she said love pudding. She just loves pudding.
Pudding.
and
Thank you.
and pudding and
Jalapenos.
On jojoba.
While
smoking a
green.
joint.
I feel like it's 60 words.
Happy birthday!
All right, and not only
I feel like. Wait, does she have affirmations for us? That's kind of the way that we do that in our house.
oh, that's
Is it?
great.
Is that how you do it?
It's like the hobbits. They give gifts on their birthdays.
Yeah.
Huh?
So
That's true. Yeah, I think it's great.
They give gifts on their birthdays?
Yeah, the hobbits do.
Oh, I didn't
Lord
know
of the
that.
Rings, if you watch
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Lars.
I
of
read the
Wow.
book. Okay.
Okay, perfect. All right, so Suzie, what nice things do you have to say about us and how you've been honored today?
And 50 words that you have to string
Wow.
together.
yeah.
Please feel free
Gosh,
not.
it used to be that like you wouldn't ever talk about a woman's age. And now here we are.
Well,
Oh.
Suzie, you may or may not have
No,
been announcing
I feel okay
the impending
about it.
arrival.
Oh, yeah. No, I
of
feel
this.
okay
Now we
about
feel
it.
bad.
No, don't feel bad. I feel okay about it. Like, I
Okay.
feel really good about
Lyra?
it, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. I just think it's funny.
Okay.
So that's all.
Yeah, it's
I actually don't
Well,
know
it is
that.
a joyous celebration
Yeah, it is.
because
I've made it 50
your
years.
soul has been this old for a while.
wow.
Yes, and now everything's just catching
Yeah,
up.
that's an affirmation. That was
Yeah.
a real affirmation.
Yeah,
Yep.
I know. But
Yeah.
my affirmation is you guys are some of the best parts of my life.
Oh, that's sad.
You need
Yeah,
a better
this is
life.
so
That's really
You need a
sad.
better
That's
life.
actually
Like, really,
depressing. Poor.
I really love my life. And like you guys are a big part of that. So thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Not only did Suzie turn 50,
She
but
spoke on
2 days
Sunday.
prior, exactly,
Yes.
she was laying the biblical lumber down to build a house of glory.
Wow.
Have you ever said that before?
Never.
Yeah.
Sometimes I start a sentence and I have no idea where it's going to go.
Yes.
So you play the 50-word game by yourself all the time. Yeah. Sometimes.
And when you do enough of that,
Yeah.
they call it a sermon. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Is that
Yes.
what- oh.
Yes.
Does it often end in a green joint?
Yeah, well, only when Kevin and I co-teach, evidently.
Well, we usually have the green joint before we
Yeah.
teach.
Wow.
Kevin's favorite
Wow.
passage
It doesn't
is Matthew
end with-
4:20.
Wow.
So anyway,
Hezekiah 2:2. Do unto others as they do unto you.
Oh my
okay.
gosh.
All right, so Suzie,
Yes.
Lyra?
are you gonna?
Lyra, come on back, honey.
So I just have to compliment. I have to compliment Edwin because Seth Erie
Edwin's big
pulled
quiet.
up.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah. He pulled up the YouTubes from
no.
last week.
Okay.
And this was the first time I've ever experienced our YouTube channel with the attendant like splits of timestamps. So the first timestamp.
Are you talking about the podcast?
Yeah,
Okay,
for this
Yep,
one.
yep.
Oh,
And so I'm on YouTube, and the first thing you can click on is 3 guys talk dumb things around conception or something. Like it's like perfect.
is that what it said?
Yep, and then about 2 minutes later, it's like Suzie Lind enters righteous and indignant. That was literally.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. And then there's another one. Shout out to Brad. Brad got his own timestamp. Brad, shout out.
That is
And
awesome.
then it was for those of you that have survived. Now
Yeah.
it really starts or something. I mean, it was genius. It was absolutely.
That's how this one's
Grant.
going to be after
Grant is a
19
genius.
minutes.
Is it Grant who does that?
Grant.
Oh, okay.
Grant does
Edwin,
that.
I really thought that was you, and I was complimenting you.
Shout out,
No,
Grant.
that's an affirmation. That's
Yeah.
an affirmation.
Okay, so Suzie, what was on your pre-birthday heart on Sunday
As you laid the lumber
for the house,
for the house
of the Lord?
of the Lord in glory.
Man, I put way too much oregano, and I smell like a spaghetti factory right now.
I was going to say something,
Like,
and I thought,
oh, it is, and you want me to put that in my mouth?
wait, I think
What?
Didn't you have some garlic
Oh
in
my
your bag,
gosh.
It
too?
feels that way.
Yeah.
Like my sinuses are open for business.
Business. What kind of business?
I don't know.
Yeah, just dumb jokes.
It's just so strong.
Got all kinds
So
of business
strong.
going on.
Oh, okay, Suzie Lind, back
Yeah.
to you.
Back to garlic bread.
Yes,
Yes.
Palm Sunday.
Palm Sunday,
Yes.
we talked about Jesus entering into Jerusalem.
Yes.
And
Yes. With palm branches.
yeah, and we kind of paused at the moment where he began weeping
Mm-hmm.
and what he was weeping for. And I think the what I always learned about that passage was that Jesus was weeping because the people didn't accept him, they didn't understand, and that's true, but there's just so much more to that when you kind of dig into it, and the things that, when he says, like, if you only knew about the peace you were looking for, and like what kind of peace they were looking for, and to really kind of unpack, well, what were they looking for, and did they get what they were looking for? Ultimately, no. And the way that Jesus does bring about peace and salvation, contrasting that with the story of Zacchaeus was really interesting to me. So
what are so how does salvation come to Zacchaeus in ways that are different than the offer that was given to Jerusalem?
So Zacchaeus is like the head tax collector, so that's awful in and of itself.
Yeah.
And a wee little man.
And he's a wee little man.
Right.
Yep. Known forever as the wee little man.
And, he's exploiting people, taking their money,
right,
that sort of thing. But he's the one who goes after Jesus. And Jesus says, hey, I'm coming to your house today.
Yeah.
And so he welcomes him into his house. And everybody starts kind of mumbling like he's with a sinner. He's gone to go be with a sinner. And Zacchaeus just kind of like, he hears that. And his response is repentance. And he actually has a change of heart of who he is and who he's known for. And he says, I'm going to pay back everything that I owe. And for people that I've stolen from, essentially, I'm going to pay back 4 times the amount and like be even more generous. So he goes from being greedy to being generous, and from exploiting to bringing justice. And then when he says that, Jesus pronounces his salvation has come to this house today. And so, like, we know that we've been saved by grace, and that, we don't earn our salvation, and, we're saved by faith and not by works. But there is this element of partnering with Jesus, this element of like, if we are actually saved, if something has actually changed our hearts, then that would be evident in the way that we live our lives. And so we see that in Zacchaeus. And I think what he was weeping about was all the people that were there saying Hosanna were probably not willing to go that distance. And so I think it made him sad.
So the difference is between someone who received Jesus on Jesus's terms versus somebody or a whole group or city who wanted Jesus to come a certain way.
Yeah, they wanted peace on their terms.
Got it.
And then a few days later.
Yeah, and 3 days later, I mean, they were so fickle about it, they didn't get what they wanted right away. So 3 days later, those same people are shouting, crucify him. So
where'd you end that for us? Like, how does that hit us?
Well, I think where it ended was there is this aspect of they didn't get it, but they thought that they did. I mean, he was talking to Jewish people, he was talking to his own people, religious people even, and so what really hit me is like, I wonder what we don't get, or I wonder what we're missing.
Yeah,
and so there's all these times where I'm praying for God's mercy, for his salvation. I'm praying for peace, especially in all the big ways, like in the cultural, political, social climate ways, and also just in my own personal life, and the peace that I want to feel about certain things and experience about certain things, and the healings that I want people to have, and the difficulties I want people rescued from. So I pray for those things, but I don't ever ask Jesus to show me what it is that I might be missing, or what it is that I don't get, because I think I'm pretty right about a lot of things,
Yeah.
And
we usually are.
Yeah, we usually are. And we're pretty great about saying we could be wrong, because I think we are aware that we could be wrong.
For sure.
But we don't really ask, what am I wrong about? At least I don't. Maybe you guys do, because you're holier than I am.
Highly unlikely.
I don't ever ask, what am I missing?
That's a good
question.
question.
What do I need to see? And I think, we sing that song, like, break my heart for what breaks yours.
Yes.
I think that's my understanding of that song now, which I never really, thought about that deeply before. So, yeah.
Side note, that is my favorite section of any worship song I think I've ever heard. Is that bridge of that song?
Yeah.
Break my heart for what
Wow,
breaks yours.
and you've heard your share.
You've heard.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite. That's my favorite bridge of all time.
Yeah, and I think so for me, like every time I teach,
I like the Golden Gate Bridge.
every time I teach, the like the process of teaching, the studying and the
Yeah.
prepping is by far my favorite part
Yeah.
because I learn so much. And so I show up teaching what I'm learning.
Yeah.
And like it just wrecked me a bit, just that aspect of things that I just didn't really think that deeply about.
Yeah.
And my studying really took me to
So
a deeper level.
what
with that.
would be different this week? Like as you walk into this week, I mean, now that you're 50.
Yeah.
I'm 50. You know that
Yeah.
sketch?
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, what would you walk into this week? How would you walk in different? Like your awareness, your...
Yeah. And I mean, so this is actually something that I think that God has been speaking to me about, and I think trying to cultivate in my life already. And this was part of that, I believe, at this point. But like, it's just this, this way of slowing down. I mean, we talk a lot about like heart, soul, mind, and strength, and where which of those things in our spiritual anatomy we work out of most commonly. And for me, it's strength. I'm a doer. I get things done. I walk into a room and I think about what the needs are and what needs to be done. And I think the invitation for me has been to slow down and let it speak to me and paying attention more and that sort of thing, going into it with that posture rather than coming into it with what needs to be done. Does that make sense? Like more of a listening and paying attention than evaluating right away, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How does that tie into that message? What part of that, or your study?
Well, I think for the people who they were missing it
Yeah.
and they didn't get it, they had in mind what needed to happen.
Right.
Rome needs to be overthrown.
Right.
You know,
We need a leader. We need a strong
we need
leader.
a king.
Yeah.
And here he is, the son of David. And they had in their mind that it would be a certain way and it would go a certain way. And that's not how it was going to go. And so I often wonder for me, like what am I thinking is going to go a certain way?
Yeah.
And really God wants it to go a different way.
I think we should just really quickly do a quick game of what is Suzie missing, because I want to say fiber gummies
Yeah.
based on what the plumber said. So, to Kevin, anything? No, I'm just being silly. The thing too, it wasn't just that strikes me about that story. It wasn't just that they missed what Jesus was doing. When he weeps, you missed the time of God coming to you.
Yeah.
Like that language strikes me because it's not just that Jesus offered them peace. He offered them him, like himself.
Yeah.
And the idea that you did not recognize God's coming to you, that's the thing that is like, oh my goodness, what are all of the ways that I've prejudged how God shows up?
Right.
Right? And all the ways that I've prejudged he doesn't or couldn't
Yeah.
or can't. And it's like there have to be burning bushes all around us.
Yeah. Well, and even like that phrase that we kind of use flippantly, like, oh, God showed up, you know,
Come
or
on.
like, you know, when we ask God to show up or we invite Jesus to come into like be with us, you know, like we say that in just
Right.
a very casual way, but like, theologically speaking, he's already here.
Check.
So
Yeah, he's like, yep.
we don't need to invite him because
showed
he's
up.
already here.
Yeah, I'm here.
And
You're the
so-
one that showed up, kids.
But so what is it that we're actually asking for?
Right.
And what is it that we're, you know, missing
Missing.
in that?
Yeah.
Well, I just thought your answer to Tim's question was really profound that way. It's awareness. It's the interruption of normal.
It's a humble awareness.
Right. Totally.
Curious awareness.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So when we teach and we say we want to make the Bible weird, what we're trying to create that humble awareness that I'm prejudging the text already, and I'm not allowing it to sort of
Right.
stand over me. I'm standing over it.
Yeah.
You know, and Kevin's that way with culture, right? You don't want to just because it's a church,
Yeah.
people preload the word church,
Yeah.
and we want them to experience something different.
Yeah. Much different.
I think on another level too, it was interesting just to think about what was making him weep, and as a mom, like thinking about it as a mom of
Yeah, that
kids
was
who are
good.
becoming adults. Like, you can't really control anything that they're going to do,
Yeah.
and what they're going to, how they're going to live their lives. I mean, you've done all that you can, and then there's a point where you just have to
Yep.
let it roll, right? And so you see your kids going in directions sometimes that you would not choose for them.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, I've been on that road. I know where it goes. And there's a sense of like, that's what Jesus is saying, because he knows what's coming for them. He knows he's going to be crucified. He knows the temple will be destroyed. He knows Jerusalem will fall. And he can see all that coming, but he weeps from this place of like this guttural, like grieving loss kind of a
What's maternal
weep.
imagery?
Yeah, it is. And some of the accounts actually use maternal imagery to talk about it. But there's this like overwhelming sense of like worthiness of being wept over, that he really does long for us.
Sign of love.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the other thing that was really
Did anything come in on the text line, or was there anything that, I mean, it sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
I
there
just
was
wanna-
one really great question.
Yeah.
And it was really good, and I haven't replied to it yet because I actually think it's great that we're going to talk about it here, because I often worry, because I'm learning about lament more, and I'm learning how to lament, and that it's not just sitting in sadness and moping around and navel gazing. It's naming and making space for, holding space for real hard, difficult things and feelings, and then with the hope and awareness that hope is going to come, and that it won't always be this way, but rather than like quickly getting to that, like, oh, Jesus is the reason for everything, and God has a plan for your life, and things will get better, like all the dumb things that we say in times of lament. I worry that, like, I don't want to be like too sad and like bring the room down all the time, but I do think it's important. So this person texted and said, where's the line? Where's the line between sitting in our sorrows, like, and just sitting in it for too long, and lament?
Oh,
Right?
that's
Is that
good.
how it was phrased?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, read it.
I didn't bring my phone with me.
Meanwhile, you can discuss.
You were just saying lament isn't just navel gazing. I just wrote this down, but almost like active grief.
Yeah.
Is it?
I think it's active grief, and it's calling upon the name of the Lord. It's like, I mean, the Psalms are full of them. It's that whole, like, being honest about all of our doubts and all of our questions and all of our sadness and all of our anger, trusting that God is not afraid of that, and that he's with us in that, and that, yes, we know that there's hope in him, and we know that there's something on the other side of this, but we can't see it. And so, God, would you just, like, I don't have words for what I need you to do,
Yep.
right? So,
At what point does lamenting become dwelling in darkness? Where is the line drawn between lamenting and negating the goodness of God? I struggle with not dwelling on the darkness to the point of letting it encompass me, while also wanting to feel all the emotions that come with brokenness.
yeah.
Yeah, Kev,
It's so good.
I want you to speak to that, because I've heard you. This is something you've wrestled with and spoken to a bunch.
Wow.
Well, and Journey on My Mind too gets at some of this.
Yeah, I think the struggle comes in two ways. I think the first struggle is this is probably the first half of my life was, I'm just not going to go there. I'm not going to feel it. I'm not going to. So we negate the idea that negative, that we associate feelings. There's bad feelings in such a way that we either avoid them or negate them. And when in reality, what they do is they point us somewhere.
Yeah. Just because they feel bad doesn't mean that they are bad.
Right. And then once you realize that, it speaks to a need. It speaks to something in you. So when you're lamenting, it speaks to this need for deliverance, or it speaks to the need for something to change. It speaks to the need for God to intervene. It speaks to us in our dependence on God, all of those things then move us to a place of understanding God's role in the world, where we cannot control it, and we don't, and we begin to see God active even in the midst of those dark moments. But when all we're focusing on is the darkness, we can't see the light, and we refuse to see the light.
So what changed for you? If that was the first half, it
Mm-hmm.
was just avoiding.
Yeah.
What was it that began to wake you up to another way?
Partly my children, having children.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we all just, yep.
Yep. It's the realization that they can flip through feelings like crazy, and I didn't want them to experience what I experienced. So it was like, okay, let's at least sit in these for a little bit and talk about what they are about, rather than just don't cry. There's no crying in pain. There's
that's
no
so good.
there's no overexcitement. Don't get too excited, because the next thing isn't going to be that exciting. So to try and corral the feelings of my children, I didn't even try. I think they learned it from me just by watching me, that I corral my emotions in such a way. They didn't see me really with highs and lows, and so they learned through, not through words, but through just watching me, which I'm sad about.
But that's also part of a great gift of yours, is that you're steady in the midst of
A whole lot.
crisis.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I get
Yep.
that there's a shadow, but there's also a really great part of that. So what woke you up to your, because you've been doing loads of work.
Right.
It doesn't feel like navel gazing for you,
Not at all.
but you've had much to lament.
Yeah, I didn't even. Yes, true.
Yeah.
But what moves me from lament into the place of hope is several things. One is I've learned forgiveness is a key component of moving off of it. It's also realizing I have no control over how it plays out, so I release control. I've learned this through therapy. I've learned this through talking to friends, reading books, but also just in a I've moved out of my head into my heart in many ways that just wasn't allowed before. Yeah.
So to the question,
Yeah.
what separates the navel gazing and the perseveration in darkness from
Right.
lament? What would you say?
I would say the purpose for the lament. I would say that's the answer to the question, why you're lamenting. If you're lamenting to be drawn further into the darkness, then you will be drawn further into the darkness.
Got it.
If you are lamenting what has happened with the realization that there is a God that's bigger than, and that is rescuing and is redeeming, you gravitate towards the light. I don't think it's much more difficult than that, but I also think that it's really hard in the midst of really hard times not
how do you,
not to spiral. Right.
Right.
well, how do you lament then in a healthy way when you're like, God screwed me? Like,
If
I
God's
don't
not
have
the
that
deliverer, then I think you will spiral into places that then you need people to talk to. Then you have to be around people who can help you out of it. I think that's what the community is for. It brings balance, and it brings perspective, and it brings.
That's what we were talking about last time, right?
Yeah.
When after you spoke,
Right.
like I can have hope
Yeah.
for you,
Yeah.
Right.
with you,
Right.
even when you don't.
Right.
So I can be a bearer of light
Right.
to people in darkness without negating their darkness.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. And own some of the darkness,
Yeah.
because we own some of that. It's not like we're not somehow culpable, because we are.
What do you mean?
Because we whether willfully or unwillfully contribute to the darkness through the way that we
got it.
speak, or the way that we
Yeah.
participate in the world. Sometimes intentionally, we bring hell to a situation. I've done that. And
Heaven or Kevin.
Yep, it's one, and so there's the recognition of I probably caused people to lament. I've pastored in the church
Sure.
for a long
Oh,
time. I think
yeah.
I've burned people in the church.
Yeah.
And so I contribute to that, but also don't.
Okay, so you're saying
don't
part of your
stay-
health is owning your
Yeah.
contribution to the
Right.
darkness. Got
Yeah.
it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Not to the point where I own their lament, but
Right.
to the point where I
Right.
know that none of us are innocent.
Right.
None of us.
Yeah.
And so we join together and go, okay, yeah, yeah, let's now focus on the one who is innocent. Let's focus on the one who moves us out of the darkness.
One of the things that's been helpful for me is the difference between lament and complaint. Lament assumes the goodness of God, and that's the difficulty.
Yes.
Complaint questions the goodness of God.
Right.
And so the biblical laments are all within covenant framework. God, you see everything.
Yeah.
You've delivered before. I know you can heal. Why don't you?
Right.
Like so there's
You call that a lament?
that's a lament. A complaint is, why the heck did you take us out of Egypt? Just to kill us?
Yeah.
Come
In
on,
the
man.
wilderness.
Your
So
intentions
what
for me are bad.
What would you call Habakkuk?
I would call Habakkuk a book of the Bible. I would call Habakkuk hard to spell. I would call Habakkuk
An oil,
the
an
minor
essential
prophets.
oil.
Lamentation. They all assume the covenant.
Yeah. But you think Habakkuk is assuming the covenant?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yes, and when you assume the covenant, you're actually freer to lament because you've got reason to lament. You know, if God weren't all that God says God is, well then, okay, it's just bad luck.
Right.
You know,
Right.
your friend gets ALS
Yeah,
or my mom
right.
dies or
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
But
It
when
is-
you're like, oh, you're the great covenant God who knows the beginning from the end, then what are you doing?
Right.
Right? That's the difference. So there's an orientation shift.
Help me understand. Let me see the light in this.
Totally.
Help me to see where you
Job
are.
is the great example of this. I haven't done anything wrong.
Right.
What are you doing?
All right.
And his friends are like, you're an idiot, bro.
Well, and it's funny because that's another reason why you should not pay attention to the headings in your Bible because they all say complaint.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are times God
different.
rebukes Israel for complaint, right? Which is a lack of faith. I've just delivered you, and now you want to go back.
Yeah.
And you're saying my intentions for you are bad.
Right.
But the minor prophets look at the destruction of Jerusalem and go, all of your promises, your presence is here. How could you let this happen? It assumes. It's the difference between a healthy fight in marriage versus one that splits a marriage.
Yeah, that's really good.
Right? The healthy fight in marriage assumes the covenant.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, we're here together.
Right.
And because we're together, this sucks.
Yeah.
But there are fights that are like, well, I mean, if you're going to be this way, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there aren't times for
Right.
that. I'm just saying there is an assumption of covenant in lament that's different.
Yeah.
And that doesn't,
that's so good.
But that doesn't bypass how awful it is.
Right.
And sometimes it intensifies it.
yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
I would have an easier time just believing it's random and be like, well, sucks to be you.
Right.
But when you're like, oh, God is good and his purposes for me are good, and this is still happening, you know, WTH, which means what the heck? Anyway, that's how we do it. I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know what you guys
in
were
the
thinking.
world?
there.
We said with the heaven in our house, but that's
Sometimes I say, what the Kevin?
That's where our two messages kind of intersect in this spot.
It was beautiful.
It was it's the question that people who are struggling and going through difficult times want to know. God, what are you doing? And why should I have hope now? And oftentimes we want the answer to the question to be what we want the answer to the question to be. And when it's not, that's when we complain.
Well,
That's when
yes.
we move into complaint. Because God, I wanted my friend to be healed,
Right.
and you didn't.
Right.
Now you're bad.
So I'm waving palm branches that are signifying, Jesus, I want you to be a ruler.
Right.
And I'm doing that even as I'm praying. And that's fine. I mean, that's the great gift of prayer. Back to the persistent widow. One of the things we didn't talk about was the fact that Jesus is rewarding chutzpah, that you come with boldness and negotiate. You know, it's like Abraham going, okay, so if there are 50 righteous people, are we cool? God, don't hurt me. What about 40? And it goes all the way down to 5.
Yeah.
What's that teaching us about what God's like?
Yep.
He is not afraid of chutzpah, honesty, lament, whatever.
He's a negotiator.
He's
an accommodator.
and he's interested in our participation. So what's rewarded there. It's not about the character of the judge, and it's not even about the character of the woman.
No.
It's about the nature of participation, even when there's a power differential.
Yeah.
And so I thought Kevin did a great job of bringing that out, but it ties exactly into what you're talking about. If I come in, and this is where we do a really crappy job with church, because we don't teach people to lament.
Yeah.
We have expectations that say Jesus can only save or heal this way.
Yeah.
It only looks glamorous. It only looks spectacular. It only looks quick. It only looks like this instantaneous thing.
With these words.
Absolutely. Whereas here comes Jesus in ways, and this was true of his incarnation and how much more of his death.
Yeah.
The whole story of Jesus is God, the God you least expect.
Yeah.
And so for me and for us to approach the Christian faith as I know what he's up to, I've got it figured out, I've got the equation mapped out, is the height of idolatry. In essence. And so we've talked about Jesus is the God who disappoints everybody. And so you don't get into it with Jesus coming away having him fill the hole in your heart. There are times he makes the hole worse, right? He's a very disruptive and intrusive presence. And so what you're capturing is this great hole in discipleship that says these feelings are actually part of the covenant we have with our Jesus. Jesus had them himself. Right. And so this is not abnormal for people to be wrestling with darkness. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think this was a really good wombo combo between the two of you.
Yeah, I think.
And
Go.
And the hard part is though that then Christians, we use these things and throw them out at people in the midst of pain, and I don't know how to reconcile those two things, because we can say, just be curious about what God's doing in this, and you're like, screw you.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Or people will say, oh, God healed him, but it's just in his way. He's healed in heaven.
Right.
And it's like, we chuck
it's
these things out, and, and some of these things might be actually be true.
Malformation.
Yes, but they're unhelpful.
But they're I think we have a culture that doesn't know when to use them, when not to use them, because I don't want to use them because it's like, that's so stupid. Yet there's some truth in there.
Right.
So it just gets a little confusing, because I think, the malpractice has really shut most of us up, yet there's truth there.
Right.
Don't you talk about this on Journey on My Mind?
Yeah.
Spiritual bypassing.
Yeah.
Like what not to say in grief.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think the struggle is the recognition that darkness has descended on somebody. You step into a situation and you can see sadness. You can see that they're struggling with whatever they're struggling with. And the thing that wells up in us, at least in me, is, how do I help? And oftentimes we don't know how to help. And there isn't a way to help. And so you find yourself sitting with someone who is in great pain or going through a period of darkness, not with answers. I think we have to have answers. We don't have the answers. Yeah. We have presence. We have light that we can bring. We can bring compassion. We can hold things. But we can't necessarily fix things. Those are different things. And I think and as a parent, as a pastor, as a friend, I want to fix things. But sometimes the only thing I can do is bring a little bit of light to a very dark situation.
Yeah, but we've also been told that we are people, why am I blanking on that? Without hope.
Who grieve
without hope. I mean, that we're not those
we're not
people.
Who grieve without hope.
So, so we as Christian people feel like, I may not fix you, but I can inseminate some hope. I could push some hope right here.
Yeah, but hope isn't rooted in what I say. Hope is rooted in what you believe to be true.
Yeah, we've just made it that.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good distinction.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something that doesn't work in the darkness, and it's freaking oregano. I have a headache from how pungent this is. I don't know in what circumstance you would ever use this.
It's just on dead people.
This is,
yeah.
I can see people using it on
that
dead people.
explains a lot.
I mean, it's
a balm.
strong. And you wanted me to put it in my mouth?
Yeah.
Were you kidding? Like, was that a joke?
Yeah.
Okay. Whew, I'm so glad
I mean, you
didn't do
can
it.
put it in your mouth, but it would burn your mouth.
Did you put some in?
They were.
I know they were.
And I'm glad I was skeptical. Because I was for a second.
And it wouldn't hurt you. It would just, for a moment, like it's like Mike, biting into a jalapeno kind of hurting you.
It's called batoil. It's all I can't pronounce it. Batoil.
And on that note. Yeah. Timestamp that, Grant.